we have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order.
This crusade, this war on terrorism, is going to take a while.
We came, we saw, we died.
We tortured some folks.
Yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines, you are not cattle, you are men. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate, only the unloved hate, the unloved and the unnatural. Soldiers, don't fight for slavery, fight for liberty.
And we are parked. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode 22, Double Deuces of Dave versus Goliath. Everybody, we have got a special one tonight. Not only do I have my bro, Dan, in the building waiting in the wings, but I also got a couple of extra bros tonight. So we're going to do a bit of a round table, and we are going to cover a little bit of the current state of the Great Reset. But yeah, as I said, can't get by without a little help from my friends. So let's bring in my main man, Dan. First, Dan, how you doing, bro?
Good, man. Good to be here. Hey, you nailed the landing this time.
Did you catch that?
I did.
For you audio listeners, nothing will ever be different to you. But if you're watching, yeah, stuck the landing that time. Appreciate you. Thanks, man. Up next, we got two dudes that I have grown quite fond of in the recent years here. And we're going to learn a lot from these guys today. First up, I got my dude, Tommy Salmons from the Libertarian Institute and the Year Zero podcast. What's up, Tommy? How you doing, brother?
What's going on, man? I'm good.
It's awesome that you're here. Thank you for being here.
You know what I'm thinking, man? Like I love you the filter at the beginning of the show. Mm-hmm. But man, mix in some like ministry, New World Order into it.
Only because you asked, and Dan looked like he got pretty excited about that too.
Man, I haven't heard ministry in a long time. Yeah, we need to do that.
Throw in some new shit. Mix it up. All right. Noted, bro. You got it for you. And we got my boy and Tommy's boy here. He is the vice chair of the LP of Newcastle County. He's the author of Project Manticore, available on Amazon.com. And he's one heck of a human being. His name is Ryan Bunting. Ryan.
It's time for us.
Yeah. You guys said you wanted some ministry, right?
Yes.
There it is.
Yes.
That's great. Copyright strikes all day.
Because I was planning this ahead of time, and then you guys mentioned it. I'm like, serendipity, baby.
Yeah. I love it. I'm going to get my Mr. Rogers on, switch it up, put the sweater on. You know what I mean?
What is going on, everybody?
Yo, it's good to see you guys. I appreciate you being here. And yeah, copyright strikes. We can take that.
You're demonetized. You're welcome.
Already for that?
Oh, no, it might be short enough. You might be safe.
I was going to say, yeah, that I feel like...
They give you like 20 seconds, I think, or something like that. So.
They flag me every time for the filter song, but they haven't booted me or given me strikes, so I'm cool with it. You can let me know I did something wrong. Just let me have my shit. Don't kick me off. But real quick, let's just do some introductions really quick for anybody who doesn't know you guys. Tommy, as I said, you are a writer, contributor at the Libertarian Institute, so you work alongside the great Scott Horton and guys like Keith Knight and Kyle Anzalone. You guys are really the real deal over there, and obviously you're the host of an amazing podcast, and we'll get more into that. But yeah, just give everybody maybe your 2-minute spiel on how you got into this and what moves you right now. What has you thinking and making moves?
I was texting Pete a while back whenever one of the last articles I had published, and we were texting back and forth about the article, and I was like, do you know how weird it feels to be like in between Lou Rockwell and Ron Paul at the Libertarian Institute? Like, I don't belong here.
That's gotta be trippy. Yeah.
Yeah. It's wild. It's wild. So, yeah, I'm a trucker, have the Year Zero podcast. I try to write as much as I can. I'm a fiction writer and sometimes nonfiction. Most of my articles I make up out of my mind, and everybody believes it's true. That's not true. I don't do that. But no, yeah, I do a lot of research and a lot of reading and trying to figure out what the hell's going on so that I can warn my children to steer clear of, the bad guys. The boogeyman is out there.
Yeah, man. Beautiful. Thanks, man. Ryan, what about you, man? So for people that don't know, you and I are rocking out this local Newcastle County party, chair and vice chair of the county. We have that in common, both Meacocks. But as I mentioned, you authored your first book. I think you just had a 2-year anniversary on that, if I'm not mistaken.
It was the same day I got married. Same day I bought my house, too.
Congratulations on all fronts, bro.
Thank you.
Very exciting time to be you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, I'm just a fucking nerd, man. I came to the Liberty movement in like 2016, and ever since then, I just kind of delved deeper and deeper into just full-blown anarchism. And now I'm just doing what I can to keep Delaware free. And I write, I do graphic design, data entry, all kinds of shit. I have a whole business where I do that stuff, business to business, trying to help smaller companies that can't afford to hire somebody, but they need shit done. So it's kind of...
Should people find you at autonomyvirtual.com?
They absolutely should.
RyanBunting.com for all of your racist graphic design needs. Go to RyanBunting.com.
I prefer statistics enthusiast, but we'll go with that.
Nice. Yeah, please go support Ryan. If you need any, I just got some beautiful business cards in the mail that Ryan helped me out with for Reno, so I can go and network with some folks up there. So, yeah, you can trust him to do a good job with that graphic designing. Get your business in order.
I got to get better about pushing autonomy virtual. I really do.
Yeah.
Usually when I record these intros, though, honestly, it's like 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm drinking my second cup of coffee, getting ready to go to work. And I'm just like, okay, I come out, stumble in here, and I'm just like, okay, today I talked to.
See, I'm the exact opposite. Like everything, the candles in the room has to be set. The incense has to be going. I have to have a proper cup of tea, made. That's how I am. Kind of ritualistic. And
he's got the tea. He's got the patchouli going.
Yeah,
really fitting the vibe.
That's what I just fucking did.
All you're missing is the
I just
Baja
saged
hoodie.
The place, bro. Everything, all the spirits are out of here.
Yeah, round out the whole look. Get the Baja hoodie. Sage out.
The intro is my least favorite thing to do. I hate doing it. I'm just like, I'm sitting on 2 podcasts right now because I don't want to take the time to record the intros.
Oh wow! See, I don't do that.
Intros.
Yeah, I'll record your intros. I'll do it. That's awesome. Cool. So let's get down to it, dudes. Again, I told you before the show, I didn't really write a whole lot of notes because I feel like we should just have a kind of organic discussion here. But yeah, we are a couple days out from the Davos crowd. They're going to be having their annual meeting. I thought that's timely, especially, Tommy, you're focused a lot on that, as I am, and Dan and I talk a lot about it on this show. So I figure while everybody else is celebrating the fact that we're, maybe not, there's less masks around and there's not a push for so many mandates. I don't know. I think it's a little just pre-celebratory, like maybe that's not the best move. Not that I'm not, optimistic.
It's the calm
about the
before the storm.
Kind of. I mean,
didn't New York just declare that it was high alert for COVID or some shit like that?
Right. So, yeah, I just wanted to maybe take some inventory 2 years in, take maybe a step back. What were we wrong about? What were we a lot dead on, balls accurate with, what they were trying to do. So I just thought we could take a look back, maybe look into the future. And, specifically as a Liberty trucker, Tommy, and a guy who works logistics on the ground, Ryan, maybe we could address some of the things that I think are, built into phase 2 of the 2030 plan, which is going to be the food shortages, which will lead to more unrest and the summer of fires and riots. And then
the summer of love.
Right. And then we can fundraise for the next election, yada, yada, yada. But before we do that, everybody take a minute. Make sure you go to wheeliespharmacy.com. That's WHEELYSFARMACY.com for all your CBD needs, tinctures, teas, lotions, capsules, and more. Full spectrum CBD, Great for pain, chronic pain, sleep, anxiety, depression, all that stuff. And use promo
He's not
code.
paying me to say this, but I use that stuff and it's great. So
Yeah, me too.
check it out.
Boom.
Yeah,
That's two
good
out
stuff.
of 4. Not bad.
Never heard of it.
Customers
Sorry.
on the screen.
Tommy, why would you not use that stuff? I just think that's kind of fucked up.
Pure pressure, man.
Yeah, that's right. But use promo code DVG15 at checkout to save 15% on CBD there. So yeah, guys, let's move into the Great Reset. And
I would prefer not to, but
oh,
we
we're
can talk
moving
about
in.
it.
Listen, you will eat the bugs, you will own nothing, and you will enjoy it.
We're moving into it whether you like it or not, Ryan. I don't know what you want me to tell you.
I know.
That's right.
It's the
Well,
worst
I just
part
think,
about it.
I mean, you know me. I joke a lot about Klaus Schwab, this evil villain, and I've put him in lots of my memes. And Klaus, yes, he looks like the archetype. He looks like the guy right out of Demolition Man. This is like, it seems very
He looks like if Lex Luthor lived like around the corner from a Krispy Kreme.
right. I mean, he does look like kind of a Wish.com version of that.
Yeah, yeah. He's like the boof Chinese version.
Well,
of
it's
Marvel-
funny
of
because he's
Marvel
definitely he's like the archetype of every bad guy, because you could call him a Bond villain, everybody would know what you were talking about. You know, like
Yeah.
it's just
Is it too contrived? I guess that's what I'm asking at this point. We'll start off with the guy at the top, who everybody would say is the mastermind. Does it strike you as like, wait a second, maybe this is kind of like a little bit
Too
of a
on the
distraction,
nose?
or too on the exactly? Are we looking over there when we shouldn't? Or is he just kind of a puppet? That's why that they kind of put him front and center, or what? What do you think, Tommy?
I don't know. I mean, I think the World Economic Forum has a lot of power. Now, does that mean that Klaus Schwab in and of himself has a lot of power? I guess to an extent, but he's not. The thing about Klaus Schwab is he's not dictating any of these things. If you ever read the introductions to his books, he's always giving credit to 4 or 5 other writers. So he's talking and working with other people on this stuff. And so I think he's just asking the questions and he's allowing other people to come up with the answers. And then he's putting it together and creating kind of this narrative. So he may just be a face. It may be no more than Joe Biden, right? We all know Joe Biden is not running the country.
Mm-hmm.
So it could just be he's the face, and he's the face they put out there.
You'd think that they could get a guy who didn't look like Lex Luthor. That's, you know what I mean? Get the guy from Canada.
Maybe it's a
Trudeau.
troll. Maybe
I wonder
I think
if-
they're
yeah.
trolling us.
It feels like it a little bit, to be honest.
It
Yeah.
could be a troll, or it could just be like on purpose, where it's like, let's pick the most villainous looking guy.
there may not even be an actual
Guy's a
Klaus
super villain.
Schwab.
And
It
it's
might
like-
be a
it's
deep
like,
fake.
He just looks like him. He just looks like one. Don't be such a conspiracy
Yeah,
theorist.
it's like get your mind off of George Soros. So here, look at this
And
guy.
all the DAs that he installed around the country.
Right.
Even Soros that'd be another good example, though, of like a guy who they put the face job out there to do the things and kind of take any maybe negative, the negative reporting or whatever, that they can, attach a face to their, whatever ails them or whatever. But like, yeah, do you think he's at the top, a guy like George Soros, or?
I don't know. See, I think it's more complicated than that. I've talked to Richard Grove kind of about how this works. I'm just going to call it the network for lack of a better term. And I just had John Robb on not that long ago, and that's kind of what he calls it. So I'm just going to stick with calling it the network. So if you look at the writings of Cecil Rhodes, if you look at the writings of these guys, these eugenicists and kind of the New World Order types from the 40s and 50s, they're talking about circles within circles. So I think they have spokesmen. I think they have people they put out front, but I don't think it's one guy. I think it's kind of a board. And that board then passes on their information to an outer ring, and that outer ring passes it on to another outer ring, and it eventually the outer ring is the governments of the world. But I think it's much more complicated than what people try to make it out to be. One of the things I say is like, these people know each other. It's obvious they know each other. They go to Bilderberg together. They go to Davos together. They have that new thing there, the world governance in Dubai they're doing. And so it's almost like you said, it's almost too on the nose. It's like they're trolling us.
You think it's like do you think it's like a layer of shields that they put up? Like they put Biden up and then they put Psaki in front of Biden and then they put like different layers of deflection, on the way down.
Yeah, because like they don't want you to see who's like the people that are actually controlling anything. And they're going to have limited hangouts. There's going to be these limited hangouts. And who's to say that the whole Great Reset thing isn't a limited hangout? Because if you look at the Great Reset compared to Agenda 2030, it's not the exact same thing. There's differences. So who's to say these things aren't limited hangouts to get you distracted over here or distracted over there?
Do you think that the 2030 plan is still going on while parallel to it, the Great Reset is happening? Like they kind of merged?
I think it's something kind of in between. I don't know if they feel like they can pull all of it off. The way I look at it is all these guys, it's like, all right, y'all are in the Mises Caucus. So I can pretty much guarantee you that everybody in the Mises Caucus pretty much reads all the same books. They pretty much have very similar ideas. And they're kind of aiming all towards the same goal. But that doesn't mean they have to come together and conspire to create this society. They're just influenced by all the same people in all the same directions, moving in all the same ways. So I think sometimes when we talk about these things and you talk about it as a conspiracy, you kind of get caught up in the conspiracy instead of what the ideologies actually are.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, man. And you know what? I've listened to a bunch of your podcasts lately because you've just been on fire. In fact, I took a screenshot of this because I just want to go over a couple of your titles and a couple of your episodes over the past month or so. So if people are listening and they don't listen to your podcast, they should. Because you have a show on, you aired on March 22nd called What is the New World Order? Fantastic. After that, you had U.S. Color Revolution with Daniel McAdams of the Liberty Report and the Ron Paul Institute. After that, you did ESG and the Big Oil Conspiracy with James Corbett. Huge. And then you kept on going because, you said you were somewhat obsessed with the ESG thing with Michael Rectenwald. No, this is great, man. This is like everything that we should be talking about right now. But I did notice like a common theme in these episodes that I did catch is that like you are basically describing the biggest global conspiracy without sounding like a conspiracy theorist. Like no need to go into the fantasy realm of anything, which is great. That's what you want to do, I think, if you're trying to describe this stuff. That's why I thought it would be really helpful to come on here and just kind of, big picture it for everybody.
Yeah, so, I don't think you have to like, you don't have to get all into the nefarious kind of crap that like Alex Jones gets into and David Icke gets into to understand that these people all think the same way. They all go to the same schools. They all read the same books. They all hang around the same crowds. It's not that difficult.
Yeah. I had just really quick detour. We got to hang out, Ryan and I, with Scott Horton at our convention in March. And after he was done giving his speech, we spent hours, he and I and a couple other people, talking about 9/11. He was determined to convince us that 9/11 was not a conspiracy, man, all this crap, all this bullshit. And at the end of it, I was like, okay, so would you agree, though, that Bush and Cheney probably colluded with the Saudis at least? He goes, oh, yeah, I would say that. So it's like, okay, well, like that's pretty much all I need. We don't need to get into theorizing about, oh, did they use remote control planes or like all these things that make no I don't care. I don't care about that. I would care about the highest levels of government colluding with a foreign power to inflict damage on itself to enact 100 years of tyranny on its own people. That's good enough for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And the problem is that there are a lot of people out there that like to connect dots that don't necessarily need to be connected because they're trying to figure out how to understand the trajectory. And in order to understand the trajectory, they're like, well, this dot must connect to this dot. And it's like, well, there were 5,000 other dots in between that you kind of skipped over because maybe they didn't come across as big deals. You weren't looking at it as important, but maybe these are small steps to get to where you're talking about. So if you talk about, like, one of the things I like to read about is progressivism and look at the trajectory from Woodrow Wilson to today. Okay, so what did Woodrow Wilson put down as the plan that has landed us where we are today? Well, a lot of it was corporatism, the partnership with the banks. And so when you have these like little small steps, they do lead to bigger things.
Yeah. So that's a good segue, man, into maybe big picturing what the World Economic Forum is up to. You said corporatism, which I think is a great word for people that can't quite define fascism or, don't know exactly what that is. Kind of has like partisan tones to it to certain people when it just has to do with the merger of the corporate and governmental state. So corporatism, I like that one. I've heard Michael Malice use that a lot, but to big picture it really quick, would you say that this is accurate? That the Great Reset, as I can tell, is the technocratic takeover via corporations through the World Economic Forum and the mechanisms of the UN. So basically, the corporations have maybe purchased their way in, we'll say backdoor, right, through the policies of the World Economic Forum to kind of give a blanket description of what's going to be required of all global corporations in the future, right? We'll write our own laws. We'll tell you what you need to do in your own country to suit our own needs. But this strikes me as the thing that they would be talking about at the Davos meetings at Bilderberg over the past, 20 years or so. This doesn't, I imagine that people knew that something like this was coming. If they didn't know the exact details, they probably had a hunch. But this does look like a corporate global takeover. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think I think it was the Michael Rechtenwald interview I did where we're talking about ESG, and I had mentioned to him that what it appears to me is we're experiencing an inversion to where the corporations are taking the control and making the government subservient to the corporations. And the way that they're doing it, there's an article by Parag Khanna called, what is it? Dismantling Empire Through Devolution. And I've mentioned it several times on several podcasts. And what he's basically saying is, with like the Brexit movement, with Trump, with all these decentralized movements to take power away from the centralized power, how can they keep their power? And so what he's laying out is, let these people have their culture. Let these like small communities feel like they're in control of the culture that is around them. And then we'll come in and we will buy off the politicians. We'll buy up all the companies. We'll run all the corporations so that we're actually able to steer the society into the direction of power that we want. So we're maybe like culturally, they don't have any grasp on us, but financially they're controlling everything. So they're moving everything with the financial system into the direction they want it to go. And so I think that's what we're seeing with the corporations and bigger. When you get into the federal governments are already in that position to where they're being steered by these corporations. Now these corporations are starting to focus more on local politics, on the smaller areas, so that they can move the the people that are naturally resistant to them into their grip.
Yeah, and it seems they really did this in concert too with, you know, some of the NGOs and nonprofits and things, your Soros foundations. So like, yeah, they have it all covered. All the corporations that they want to survive, you know, you will align yourself with the government, you know, your major automakers and airlines and, you know, Walmart, all these things, you know, you'll be fine while we decimate Main Street. And then on the other side, the political side, it seems that they've, for decades, you know, you talk about progressivism, the progressive era, they've infiltrated, you know, up down to the local city council and mayorships, and they've really sunk into the culture. And I think it's primed for that corporate takeover at this point.
I think Dan brought up that podcast I was just on with Pete, where Pete had me on the other day. We're talking about globalists, like infiltration into local politics. Pete brought up an article that he couldn't find here lately, and it was Steve Jobs' widow pumping money into local school boards, and he said he couldn't find it. So I started looking for it whenever I started having time, and I ended up finding it, and it's from Science Daily. And yeah, she pumped in $20 billion into Los Angeles, New Orleans, and I think it was New York.
20 billion. This is the new way to launder your money when you're too rich. Philanthropy,
and
right?
Just into their school districts. This was just their school districts. 3 major cities. She pumped in $20 billion.
20 billion. How do you say no to 20 billion?
That was kind of like the core of that episode, is that the enemy has now figured out that localism is the best course.
Right.
We were all like, yeah, we've got this plan. It's going to be great because we know that we have to work locally in order to like really have an impact. But now the enemy has figured that out too.
Yeah,
well, we're seeing that.
I don't know if y'all remember the first episode I did with Pete on ESG, which was I think it was in March of 2021, or April of 2021. We did. Thank you, Kyle. I love you too, brother. We did a great episode on ESG, and you know, I brought up that Parag Khanna essay about dismantling empire through devolution, and I called it decentralized totalitarianism. And that's really what it is. They're not interested. They're part of the culture war. I agree. Leave our fucking children alone. Sorry about cussing, but I'm very intense about that.
Monetized. We're good.
Yeah. Yeah. No families watch this. But yeah, leave the children alone. I'm very big on that. But as far as the rest of the culture war, I'm just kind of like, oh, I'll just make fun of you because it's all a bunch of crap. It's all a distraction. Where the real fight is where the money's at. And if you follow the money, then you're going to find the real fight. Right? So there's a certain amount of the culture war that matters, and that is the hearts and minds of children. But the rest of it is all a distraction. You should be focusing on the hearts and minds of children. You should also be focusing on where the money is flowing.
Fuck yeah, dude. Where's the money flowing?
Well, it's flowing right into the pockets of billionaires.
Yeah. through DC, the mechanism of taxation and printing and everything, and we'll distribute.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk. I want to dig more into this, the Great Reset and the threats upon us. And I'm gonna talk about Scott Horton. Another thing that he is famously against is the BoomerCon reactionary. China, the Chi-Coms are coming to get us. He's like, there's no reason to be fretting over this, which I tend to actually be on his side, at least militarily. I don't think that we need to worry about China. But has Scott Horton thought enough about China's role in the World Economic Forum and their role as far as the model for what the world is to look like? Like, their totalitarian regime that they have is popular there amongst their own people. Like, they are the most statist country, which is why I think other countries in the world, find that appealing, especially if you're trying to get global hegemony, right? Like everybody on the kind of same page. Like, what have they figured out that everybody else hasn't? So is there a danger to that, to just being like they could, I mean, I don't ever expect to see Chinese soldiers on American land, but, you know, I would fully expect Nestle to sell out every drop of fresh water in this country for other countries or whatever it took to, you know, is there a danger in that, to just not being enough or attentive of that?
Well, in Scott's defense, he's completely concerned with war, and that's the only thing he covers is conflict.
He's the best.
And he's only interested in kinetic conflict, and he's the amount of information that he brings in on a daily basis, he doesn't have time to look into everything else that's going on. And that, I mean, that's just my defense of Scott. We need a Scott Horton so the rest of us can do what we do, right? Because that's a place where we can turn and we can get really great information on kinetic conflict around the world and be able to tie it into other things that are happening and see what's going on. From a more of a meta scale, he's very much focused on one aspect, while the rest of us, a lot of us, are looking at.
I know Scott Horton is your boy, and he's a fucking genius, and he's the best on foreign policy. But
well, no, I don't.
I think he's got a blind spot a little bit in this area.
Well, I think his blind spot is not looking at it. That's what I'm trying to say.
But he's been adamant
totally
about the fact that China isn't a threat. So
okay,
I would
so one thing I've talked to Scott about, and he didn't know this, and a lot of people don't know this. I talked to Patrick McFarland about this the other day too.
Pat's a great dude.
I love Patrick. He's just wonderful. So when Beatrix was living in South Africa, and we were trying to figure out whether I would move there or she would move here, we were taking into consideration what I would do there to earn a living and to earn money. Right. And so I would say, well, I know how to do this. I have this skill set. I could start a company and do this. And she would be like, yeah, you can't do that. And one of the main reasons I couldn't do a lot of the stuff that I wanted to do is because China is given all the contracts for infrastructure in South Africa. Mm-hmm. But when her brother-in-law wanted to go into the oil field, he didn't go to China. He went to a Western country to work in the oil industry as an engineer. All right. So the way I look at it, what I'm looking at is there's a partnership or a treaty or a tariff, not tariff, I don't guess is right. I guess treaty would be the best way to look at it, to where the U.S. does certain things, China does other things. And that's going to save the kinetic conflict. Right?
Do you think that's part of the Great Reset too? The splitting of the hemispheres, the dominance of perhaps two superpowers instead of one for the next 100 years or so. Like, is that?
I mean, they love the illusion of choice.
Yeah,
so I wouldn't be surprised if it was like, well, there's still two options.
Well, I think the unipolar world, the multipolar world, I think it's all a delusion. I think again, follow the money. Where's the money? And so where we should be looking at, like I told you a while ago, like the system is inverted from the way you normally view it. You're looking at it as governments control these things. I'm telling you, the governments aren't controlling these things.
Yeah, I don't think
corporations are controlling these things. The governments are following the corporations' lead and doing as the corporations want them to do. Right? Now look at if I heard the other day, if Elon Musk brought Starlink and SpaceX public, he would be a trillionaire. Right? BlackRock controls over $12 trillion in investments. These people are countries upon themselves.
Yeah.
Right. And so we have to stop looking at things in the old world.
Yeah.
In connectography, Parag Khanna is laying out this case, and he's like, look, in the 20th century, armies protected borders. That was the job of armies. But this isn't the 20th century anymore. This is the 21st century. The supply chain is the new arms race, right? And he said, if you look at the world, you take all the borders out, there's no longer 200 countries. Just look at the world as a map, as a complete map. And you draw all the infrastructure of the world onto this map. You have the skeleton of the world. And whenever you put in the communications networks, it forms what you would call the neurosystem of the world, right? So you have to stop looking at things from a nation point of view and look at it from a supply chain and a supply route point of view. And then that makes a lot more sense of the Russian battle, right? And what's going on there, because you have a nation in Russia who's trying to hold on to this old nationalized view of things. And everybody's pumping weapons into Ukraine. Why? Well, because that's the border that matters. Why is that the border that matters? Because of the supply chain disruption with Russia completely segregated from the rest of the world.
Yeah, when you were talking about that, it was reminding me of the best part of the movie, The Network, where the guy gets called up to the office and just gets, you know, the CEO of the building shuts the blinds and goes, "You are viewing this world in a, like you were saying, like in an old operating system. Like the world is not nation states anymore based on ideologies. It is a conglomerate of corporations." I'm paraphrasing, but basically this is what the model is. Since we've climbed out of the primordial ooze, it's the immutable bylaws of business. And of course, businesses are going to try and pervert governments to do their bidding. And they don't have to worry about things like democracy and being replaced every couple of years, right? They do have that.
And once the business's profits surpass GDP, then who's answering to who?
What can you do? Right.
Yeah. And in the recent years as well, just the huge acquisition of real estate from these large financial institutions and corporations and things like that. That's like, I feel like that was something that I never heard about years ago, but I don't even remember what the number was, but in the last couple of years, it's been enormous.
Yeah. Because you will own nothing and you will be happy. I'm
reading about that too. And again, this isn't my world and I'm just playing devil's advocate, but somebody who, I think somebody said like, yeah, they're buying solid assets because the banks are going to destroy the currencies, so they're going to need to have stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The banks are going to destroy the currencies so that they can put you on a trackable digital currency.
This is the way. This is what we're going to talk about right now. Moving into this. CBDC. So, yeah, this is one of those things that I feel like, you know, after a couple weeks of worrying about coronavirus in March, I was like, okay, wait a second. That's not what it was about. This is about laying the infrastructure for something else entirely. So that's what I want to talk about now. The contact tracer programs, you know, the talk of UBI. I mean, 3 years ago even. Ryan, remember when, and Dan, remember we were talking with Anthony Samaroff? You know, he wrote that book before all this, and it was just kind of like an abstract, the idea of UBI. Oh, what if we did this instead of this? Now I feel like post 2020, that's a real, primetime player, real possibility. What do you guys think about the infrastructure that's been laid out over the past 2 years? I know that you've talked about ESG, these businesses that are, again, maybe we can talk just a little bit about what that really means. But to summarize, these corporations would not be looking out for their bottom line or their board. They would be held to a certain standard by international laws and rules that would keep them focused on other things. Tommy, can you elaborate on that just a little bit?
Yeah. So like in an ESG program, and I think this is kind of important here, because in an ESG program, what they're doing is they're tracking where investors are spending money. So what Klaus Schwab says in the book, Shaping the Future of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, is that investors have the carrot to make the corporations move. All right. So, and he's talking about money. He's talking about their investment, right? So let's say, let's take social credit score idea and say that if you invest in a corporation that doesn't have enough transgender board members, then it counts against your score. If you invest in a company that is not giving mental health days off, or is not advocating for their or making sure that their employees have a vaccine passport, then it counts against your score. If you don't have enough black people, it counts against your score. If you are investing in in companies that, let's say, make ammunition or firearms, it counts against your score. If you're investing in oil companies, let's say like BP, it counts against your score. So what you're looking at is a situation to where the investors are saying, well, unless you act the way I want you to act, then I will not give you money to continue your business. All right. But why would investors do that? Do these things make money? Well, no, they don't make money. Why would they do that? Because financial institutions are telling the investors, if you are investing in corporations that are bad for the environment, are not socially justice active or aware, are not governed properly, then we will not give you loans. But who's an investor? When you start seeing ESG scores pop up on 401ks, on your dashboard on your 401k, you start to realize, oh, everybody's the investor. We're all investors in some way, shape, or form, right? So imagine a situation like we had in Canada where all these people's bank accounts got shut down because they donated to a protest or they attended a protest, right? Or imagine Alex Jones having Stripe canceled and not being able to open certain bank accounts, or Donald Trump having bank accounts shut down, or the January 6th protesters having Bank of America turn over their financial statements to the FBI so that the FBI could determine who's in Washington, D.C. that day, right? So you're looking at a situation to where the financial institutions are working as an arm of the federal government, and they're pressuring the investors and the corporations to act in specific ways in order to get the population to follow along, right? So if you can get the corporations to move, you get the citizens to move. And fortunately, recently, we've noticed that the citizens have started pushing back against the corporations. It did take a while, right? But we have seen it. And now we see Netflix coming out and saying, okay, we're not going to do censorship anymore. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So you kind of have this kind of pushback, and Elon Musk is a big deal in this. I don't know if I'm necessarily convinced he's all good, but he's certainly not all bad, which is better than what we've had.
We'll take that limited hangout, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like the lesser of two evils here. And so you're getting that all the way across the board. And as you have these corporations moving in the direction of ESG and they're bringing the citizens along, then the government begins to follow. It circles back around into that point. And this is why you see conservatives trying to conserve the 1990s and not the 1970s, or they're trying to conserve the early 2000s and not the 1950s, because it's all pulling around in a circle and everybody's following along.
Yeah, they certainly are, man. Yeah, so they got the corporations on lock with the ESG, and the CBDCs are going to be for your average citizen, I imagine, right? So
they're talking about making them programmable. Yeah, they're talking about making them programmable where you can't spend money in specific places. And so it looks like what they're going to do is they're trying to, as people begin to resist, they realize that okay, so something that Charles Galton Darwin wrote about in The Next Million Years was that people are wild. People are natural animals. They're not controllable. You're not going to mold them to your standard. So what you're always going to have to do is you're going to have to shift incrementally in order to get the people to follow. But there's always going to be those people that are going to resist. So for those people that resist, then they're going to only be allowed to buy certain things. Oh, because your spending habits are dangerous for the environment, or dangerous for trans activists, or dangerous for yada, yada, yada. And so you only get to spend in specific ways now.
That's the way, yeah. If I was to predict right now what 2030 would look like, it would be less like dollars and more like digital energy credits. And you have a certain amount. And if you want to spend them all driving into the city for your job, then you spend them all, and then you don't get to go have leisure time with your Tesla car that knows exactly where you went that week. And the contact tracers will know exactly where you went.
We're shutting your car off.
Yeah, exactly. If you well, let's say you just refuse to work remotely because, like, let's say you're like my wife and you need that face-to-face contact with people, that you're a people person, you're an extrovert. And so you refuse to work remotely. Well, you can only go into work 3 days a week. So you either work remotely the last 2 days or you don't work at all. And then that gets cut down to 2 days a week. Then it gets cut down to 1 day a week, right? So you're completely dividing the entirety of civilization in creating these autonomous beings that atomistic, actually, which is what libertarians got accused of for a long time. When I first stumbled into libertarianism, one of the things that libertarians were accused of, oh, y'all are just atomistic. And it's like, no, we believe in society. We believe in communities. We just don't believe in being forced to deal with, like, your rules. Like, you don't have the right to tell me how to live my life. All right. And so they're creating this atomistic society in which everybody is separated from another. So there's no tight bonds. And if there's no tight bonds, then, it's easy to move people in any direction you want, whether that's civil war, civil conflict, or it's just getting people to follow orders, because you're never sure who's going to be the one who's ratting you out, right? See something, say something.
Yeah. So do you think,
I really feel like I'm dominating this conversation. I'm sorry, guys.
Dude, it's great. No, I love picking your brain. And obviously, if anybody else wants to jump in, say, whatever you want. But do you think it looks like to me like the event, we'll call it that, of the past like 2 years, drove people out in droves of major cities like LA, and we know specific names of people that have moved out of New York, LA, these awful cities. Do you think that the goal
now they're invading Austin and Houston, and
right? So they're already moving the blue around a little bit, right? When we need to
I propose $40 billion in weapons for Austin.
Well, you know what, man? You could very well get Matthew McConaughey next year, man, and turn Texas blue. That could actually happen. You know what I mean? I think that could absolutely happen there, and he would be like your Ronald Reagan. But I know, just a possibility. But do you think that they tried to get people out of the cities who wouldn't comply so that they can at least
infest another area?
I feel like, obviously, in the technocratic utopia of the future, they want people in the urban centers, that not to go out, but more people to come in. But do you think
what was it in Brave New World? He talks about the savages that live on the outskirts.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they're kind of creating this right now. Like, you get out now. Now's your time to get out. Everybody who wants to play the game can come on in, and they'll at least have hegemony amongst their urban centers, right, in decades to come. Feels like that anyway.
The thing is,
or do you think New York will come back?
No, I don't think the cities will come back. I think what you're experiencing is this is going to be a really hard period in American life. One of the things I've tweeted out several times is they can't stand you, but they can't survive without you. And once they realize where their food comes from,
I dated her before.
Once they realize where their food is coming from, and where their services are coming from, where the people who are actually do the work who they actually are and that they've all left, then they're not going to have any choice. These urban centers are going to fall apart like Detroit has, and they're going to be moving all over the place.
Yeah, it'll look like Brazil, like people living in cardboard next to like mansions.
I hope not.
Well, I mean, that's what, imbalance. Yeah, I mean, that's what it feels like anyways.
Yeah, but I just think people are either going to figure out how to do things, or they're going to start realizing that the people that they've been demonizing this entire time are people that they actually could not survive without. And
but don't you think that that's on a time window of maybe?
Oh yeah, it's going
to
be hard for a while.
Once things get fully automated, they'll go down to what the Georgia Guidestones say and keep this Earth at a cool 5 million or something, or whatever that thing says. You know, they don't really need more than that to keep the lights on.
Well, one of the
whatever Moloch commands.
One of the arguments for population control is that the less amount of people that you have to make sure are wealthy and living comfortably, the more wealth there is to pass around. And so therefore you would have less resistance. Now, see, I would say the argument against that is, now one of my things that I like to do is watch nature documentaries. So I'm going to go into one of my little nature geek moments here for a second.
Do it.
Tommy's going to give us his David Attenborough impression.
Here it is.
I don't know who that is, but okay. I was watching a documentary the other day, right? And there's what is called the Asiatic lion. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's a lion from Asia. All right. And they used to exist all over China, India, the Philippines. Like these lions went all the way up into Siberia. It was, and the population they were hunted as sport, and the population was down to 20 lions. And there was this small area in India that this prince turned into a reserve to protect these lions, and said, okay, we're not murdering these lions anymore. No more of this. And so he put all of I think it was called the Giri or something like that. He put all 20 of these lions on this reserve. Now the population is up to 500 lions. What they have found, as the population of lions in that region has grown from 20 to 500, the amount of prey has increased, right? So as there's more of a threat to the species breeds more and creates more people or more of that specific species.
Yeah.
I think what you're going to see is, if you witness a situation to where there is this culling of the herd, let's say, then there will be the next generation will bring in more breeding. There will be more humans born, right? I think it's an evolutionary process in order to protect yourselves. If you look at nations that are less secure, they have more children, and nations that are more secure have less children. So you see the birth rate in the United States has been dropping and declining rapidly, but at Africa, they continue to have 7-8 children because they don't know if half their children are going to die in the whole process, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's this evolutionary gene within natural animals to where they are going to protect their species.
I think that's awesome, whether they know it or not. It just kind of happens. I was reading up here in the Northeast, we got this coyote problem now, which is crazy. We never fucking had coyotes up here before too. But I was reading an article that was saying that, I forget, what do you call a baby coyote? Like a pup or whatever it is. If they normally had 8, and then they hire a bunch of hunters to go out there and start shooting them, as they reduce the numbers, now they're having 12, 15. Just naturally, they're having bigger litters as the population gets under strain.
Right.
There is something about that makes me, like, something in my soul makes me feel like that's correct. Yeah, like a balance kind of thing. Like if an unnatural element tries to come in and do something unnatural to a natural species, that they will correct it.
Mm-hmm.
Just feels right. It's
Living organisms always strive for homeostasis. It happens in your body. It happens in the environment.
I don't want to hear about your fantasies.
Nature finds a way.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Let's try and end on maybe like a positive note, because this is some doom and gloom shit. And as you said, Tommy, it's probably going to get a little darker before it gets better. I tend to agree with that. That's probably accurate, right? We're going to go through maybe some dark times here.
Yeah, it's always darkest before the dawn. So.
Right.
There's a war on meat. Shelves are empty. It's
Hamburger Helper grows on shelves, so it's all right.
Yeah.
All right.
Right. Yeah.
You don't need truckers. Like, you don't need anything.
Can you imagine? I mean, yeah, the ignorance of we're just, like you said, man, like when a society becomes so comfortable. And if we have people that are white collar, work from home, 6-figure 401k, like what the fuck do you know about building something or growing food? Or what do you know? What do you care about a trucker who moves food from one place to another? Do you even concern yourself with any of that? I think that that culture, if you're really steeped in it, you just know that Uber brings you your ride or brings you your food, or your Netflix brings you your entertainment. And I mean, it's, again, to get back to nature, it's a complete detachment from what is natural, like the kind of American way right now. And I think that's why so many people have fallen into this just like complete NPC mentality. And
I think what, if you want to end on a positive note, I think the most positive thing I can say is there is a war against you as human beings, and they're not afraid of you, but I don't think they understand what people are capable of. And I really believe that people, when put in a situation where they have no choice, will survive, and they will figure it out. And it doesn't mean everybody will, and it doesn't mean there won't be casualties, but I think most people are going to fight, and they're going to figure it out. And that's why I grow my own food. That's why I raise chickens. That's why I have a stocked pond. You know, like I just understand from my point of view, it's like, you're not going to stop me. Like, I'm going to figure this out.
I love that, man. And yeah, you are really kind of just living what you're preaching, dude. And I love that. I love that you're a Liberty trucker. That was one of obviously my favorite groups. You got Top Lobster in there, Reed Coverdale. You guys got a really solid group. I love niche of the niche.
Right.
That's about as.
It is weird how many people. Actually, it's not weird how many people come to this sphere working in the transportation industry.
I don't think it's strange at all. Yeah, especially truck drivers.
Because I had to work side by side with the USDA, and you would not believe the absurd shit that happens to your food before it even ends up on your shelf. Just for it to enter the country, the shit it has to go through before it's picked up and delivered somewhere. Although recently, that last part's not happening. The whole pickup delivery thing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you talk about the diesel shortage.
Yeah, you've got a diesel shortage, and then before that was even a thing, even like as early as like 6 months ago, some of the largest ports on the East Coast were full of produce, fruit, veg, frozen meat, just sitting. I worked at one of the largest 3PLs, actually the largest 3PL on the East Coast, for a third of my life, and I had never seen it as dead as it was right before I left. And the place that I went to after that is one of the larger container ports on the East Coast, and we were busy for a while, but my uncle picks up there, and he was like, dude, I went in there on a Friday morning, and there were maybe 5 trucks there. Yeah. And there would normally be 60 waiting to get in at 6 a.m. I mean, frozen produce, frozen meat, just sitting on a pier for months at a time, to the point that the customer who's paying for the storage fee is just eating that cost, because when that meat spoils and they're not going to be able to deliver it because they can't get a truck there to pick it up, they go, whatever. They collect the insurance that they had on the box. Done.
Mm-hmm.
So
These greedy meat producers.
Food is literally sitting at these ports. I could just extrapolate and say that it's likely the same thing on that fucking dog shit coast on the other side of the country.
Well, and that dog shit coast is also we also have to be very careful, because whenever I interviewed the huntsman, you and I talked about this after that interview, Ryan, was one of the things he said that we have to be really careful about was the longshoreman strike that is pending for July of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very possible. Well, I'd say it's almost likely that we haven't even seen the worst of what's going on. Like, we haven't even seen the worst of it yet.
Jordan Peterson, who's not even, he's just starting to dabble into the Austrian School of Economics, which is great. But he was on some show the other day, and he goes, if you are in your ship and you see the iceberg, did it hit? It's too late. So, like, we wouldn't know if the economy, the ripple effect is going to take such a long time. Like, if it's already been tanked, we wouldn't know today. If it was if it was beyond repair today, you wouldn't know it for probably a couple of years.
Right.
So I think you're absolutely right, man. I think this is part of the if not all of the money, making sure that people were comfortable during the lockdown was the reason to do that. So, like, don't blame us now. Be comfortable, and you won't know who to blame in 5 years.
Well, they're pushing like Uber Eats and all that shit. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I have seen drastically more ads for like Beyond Meat, Beyond Sausage, all of these like vegetarian, vegan alternatives to meat. There was no like massive resurgence in veganism in the United States in the past couple of years. That didn't happen.
No, but this is coordinated.
But based on the advertising you see, you would think like, oh, so I guess like maybe 25% of the nation's not eating meat. They're preparing you for the fact that they are manufacturing a meat shortage, and they're like, you better get ready to eat that soy sausage.
Yeah,
I would say that anybody who's knee deep in the Austrian school and knew what the effects of printing money was going to do to the economy is a total fucking idiot if they didn't take steps in the last few years to ensure that they were going to be okay. Because watching
in March of 2020,
right? That's what I'm saying. The last few years, like, if you didn't do anything, if you were just like, oh yeah, well, the dollar's going to crash, and you just kept living your life as was, like, okay, like,
better.
Yeah,
what's coming.
exactly. Because I tell you what, as soon as I started seeing this, I was like, whoa, I got to do stuff. I got to do something.
I got to be honest with you, man. It's like being in Delaware. Dan, Ryan, and I are all pretty close in proximity, but there was, and I'm trying to do whatever I can do. But like you said, like I just said, when you see the iceberg, it's fucking too late. There was definitely some of that. Personally, I can say, like, being in this hyper blue state with no yard, there's no room for a garden here. Like, I was very aware of how unprepared I was. You know what I mean?
Dude, I'll teach you how to turn your garage into a grow.
You think I got a garage here? I rent a second floor.
I'll have you turn your living room.
You got that?
Have you seen these marijuana area? Have you seen these marijuana grows in closets? I'll have you growing all kinds of stuff in your living room.
Yeah, I need it. I mean,
I'm like a damn jungle. You'll be like, what the hell?
I'm making listen. That's what I'm looking for common themes that I'm hearing from all the best minds around, and from Tommy to Monica Perez. That's what everybody is saying. Like, yo, get a chicken. You know what I mean? Learn how to plant a tree. Get a garden. Right. That's really what it is all about. And, as you said too, value your family and your kids more than anything else.
Right. And living in a situation like you live in, I try to touch on that too, because I did live in big cities for quite a while. I lived in Dallas. I lived in Houston for many years of my life. And a lot of that time was in apartments. when I was younger. So I try not to ignore that situation and be a total fucking elitist here.
Do it. It's okay.
I would say like
elitist.
right. Yeah, I'm a redneck elitist. I would say like the best thing to do, man, is get to know like local farmers in some of the small towns around you. And just get to know them and see if you can like volunteer some time, a couple of hours a week or something like that, just helping them out, you know? And that'll go a long way in building that relationship, you know?
No doubt. And I got to say,
we got to build those communities, man. We got to build those communities because we have to sure up ourselves and our communities and the people that are taking care of us. And I think the people that are growing the food and selling it and putting it out on the market locally are much more valuable than Tyson is right now.
We have people in our caucus, in our local affiliate, that have their own market. They have a pig farm. They have like pork sausages and like all kinds of artisanal shit. They have a brick and mortar store, but they operate a farm. And so like we got that. I just built raised beds. I'm getting a rain barrel, hooking that up so I can start collecting rainwater.
Is that legal in Delaware? You better
Thankfully
check.
It is. Thankfully it is.
Yeah. I gotta say, man, you know, we get a lot of flack, the Mises Caucus, but it is a nice way of setting up your own little community. And you know, I can't speak for Ryan, but I could give a shit about Robert's Rules of Order.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck either. Like
the best part about it
the
is
important part was meeting you and everyone else that we're involved with, because this is our own Hoppian Covenant community when the time comes.
Yeah. And we're always plotting together. Always in the Discord. Always
your own little freedom cell up there. And that's good, man. And I think I don't know. Maybe the Mises Caucus does get a little bit of flack, and I think there's reason for it in some instances, and other instances I don't. So I just kind of, I don't know. I don't pay much attention to the politics or any of that stuff because that's not like my goal. Like, my goal is
you're not missing much.
You do a good job, bro, of being yourself and leading by example instead of talking shit on things
I'm
you
not
don't like.
Dude, I live in Texas. Have you seen the Texas LP? It's fucking disgusting.
Oh, yeah, it's the worst. Yeah. They are really awful.
You know, they're beyond help. I got to do my own thing here, man. I'm not driving. Look, I could be sitting here fucking with my chickens, playing with my dogs, growing vegetables, or I could drive 6 hours to Austin to listen to a bunch of people I disagree with and get pissed off and drive 6 hours back. I'm just not doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, the libertarian culture in the blue state of Delaware is absolutely thriving.
Well, that's good. That's good. Here, if I were going to be politically active, I would definitely have no choice but to involve myself with the GOP. You know, I mean, you got people like Don Huffine.
You would have to write a manifesto and start making pipe bombs. Is what it's getting to.
No, I mean, Don.
Well, once you reach the end of the ANCAP line, dude, that's the only thing to do is go. That's what you do, right? You go Republican. Yeah.
Don Huffines actually ran here and actually challenged Greg Abbott in the gubernatorial race. And, you know, Don Huffines really good friends with Tho Bishop and is a Ron Paul student. You know, so
nice.
You know, so he's a GOP. He was a GOP candidate. He was not libertarian because our libertarian party in Texas is horrible. Yeah. It's trash, man.
You got to go where the energy is.
Right.
Our GOP here just fills out the paperwork to lose and raise money.
That's good. I didn't even know you had one in Delaware.
Right. So it's like, you know, you can either be on Team Biden or you can start fresh.
Our GOP here ran a school board candidate that was also endorsed by like lefty Democrat bullshit.
The teachers union endorsed the Republican candidate here.
Yeah.
Different store, same groceries, everybody. Just put them on in there.
Yeah, and that is the case in some places. It absolutely is. But, you know, I mean, I'm looking at the difference between Beto O'Rourke and, you know, so, you know, I'm like, all right. Well.
Whatever you say, Robert Francis.
Yeah, exactly.
The audacity.
Go ahead, speak Spanish to me, motherfucker.
How about you know, like white people can walk and chew gum at the same time. I wonder if he can speak Spanish and ride a skateboard at the same time.
Como estas, fellow Texans?
Can he drive his 1970s El Camino and pick lettuce at the same time.
That's
the true purity test.
I remember whenever he was running against Ted Cruz and he rode his skateboard up onto the stage, and then Scott called me and he goes, "Did you see that shit? That boy don't know how to ride a skateboard."
Hola, fellow children.
By the way, Tommy, one of the first things, I'll never forget this, when you had me on your podcast, which, again, I don't know if I said this on the live or before, but it was about a year ago, almost to the day you had me on
we're
your
going to have to
podcast.
do it again. I'm going to have you back on.
Dude, please. And I'm sorry this took a year because I should have gotten here sooner. But one of the things you said to me was, you haven't had Scott Horton on your podcast. So unfortunately, nobody who hasn't talked to Scott Horton can call themselves a real podcaster until you have Scott on. So it's episode 22. I'm still not there yet. So if you run into him, put in a good word for me. We got to get Scott in here and maybe post Reno Reset.
The only thing stricter than libertarian purity test is libertarian podcaster purity tests.
I need it.
You're in the deep end now, Dave.
Yeah, I need that. He needs to kick my ass a little bit more on some 9/11 because I'm still believing it. Oh man,
you should do a Ryan Dawson Scott Horton episode on 9/11.
Oh my God, those guys are just
Christ,
talk
you're
over
gonna
each
just
other.
get him canceled. Yeah. It's like the bar. It's like, like bartenders, they get the regulars to talk to one another. So it's like, yeah, you guys entertain yourselves while I work. It's the same thing. It's just like, you guys talk amongst yourselves, and I'm just gonna let the content.
30 minutes in, I would just go, "No plane hit the Pentagon." All attention shifts. Anyway, I gotta tell you, this was really fun. I appreciate you guys being here, and yeah, man, we'll have to do this again. I really thought the energy was pretty good. But yeah, let's keep our heads up. Fuck these corporatist, globalist, technocratic, fascist fucks. Let's just keep living our lives. Protect the kids. Try and, I'll settle out of court right now for the Bill of Rights. I'm an anarchist, but let's just try and get that,
Right.
If the boomer cons out there can,
for sure.
If we need a North Star.
It's real easy to get like super black pilled after hearing about all of this ESG globalist shit. And it's like, it is happening. But
what did I say the other day? I was like, am I too old to be a nihilist? I feel like I should have outgrown that in high school.
No, yeah, that's how I feel. Listen, I spent too much time in my teens and 20s being fucking black-pilled and depressed. I want to enjoy the rest of my life. Right. So yeah, I always say, if they take our ability to laugh and have fun, like they really fucking won. Then you're in some 1984 type shit. So we got to ride it till the wheels fall off. You know what I'm saying, fellas? And have some fun.
I'm here for ourselves.
Yeah. Guys, I really do appreciate you. And yeah, let's do this again soon. All right?
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, guys. It has been real. Ladies and gentlemen, I do appreciate you. Episode 22 is in the books. Feeling pretty good about it. We'll be back next week, right before Reno. I'm trying to get a Mises Caucus Titan in the building, so we'll see if I can persuade the dude for Monday. If not, it will be me and Dan here, kicking it, doing the damn thing. And then, of course, the Reno reset is the following week, and we will go have a hard reset on this Libertarian Party and try and turn it into at least a sweet lobbying firm in the name of liberty. So, guys, look out for that. I will see you soon next time. Peace.